Following is a reflection based on Mark 14, 3 through 9. By this time in the story, death is all around Jesus. And then Jesus meets a certain woman. She gets a lot of credit, in fact. Jesus says of her, "Truly I tell you, wherever the gospel is preached throughout the world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her." However, she still remains nameless. But don't let that fool you, because she's the first person to acknowledge the situation that Jesus is in for what it is. This woman is the first person who steps up and blesses the Jesus whom we now know is headed for the cross. Although the crowds call out to Jesus when he entered Jerusalem with words of faith and trust, they quickly change their tune when Jesus does not live up to their expectations. When Jesus doesn't end up being the kind of Messiah that they want, they ask for the release of Barabbas, the man who participated in an insurrection. Barabbas perhaps looks more like the kind of Messiah that they could get behind, not this Jesus who walks into the temple and then walks right back out again, and who seems bent on criticizing the powerful and lifting up the lowly, neither of which are good ways to win conflicts. And what's worse, the crowds do not just cry out to try and obtain Barabbas's release. They also holler for Jesus' destruction. When Jesus disappoints the crowds, they want nothing more to do with him. They vote for his crucifixion. The disciples similarly should have known what was to come when they came to Jerusalem, because Jesus has warned them not once, but 3 times, that when he came into Jerusalem, they could expect that Jesus would be betrayed, arrested, humiliated, flogged, and crucified. Only for some reason, these warnings take no root in their hearts. The disciples, each time Jesus warns them what was to come, instead begin to prattle on about which one of them is the greatest and which one of them should be entitled to the seats of power and glory when Jesus' kingdom does finally come in glory. The disciples don't like what they find walking into the unknown with Jesus during this first Holy Week, but it perhaps shouldn't have been so unknown for them. Nevertheless, they persist in not quite getting it, in denying the rising warnings that something is wrong, that tension in Jerusalem between Jesus and those who can do him harm. Their faith in and commitment to Jesus remains for them unexamined. They still believe that they will be faithful to Jesus no matter what. But when the rubber meets the road and Jesus is arrested, the disciples, in their fear and disappointment, run and hide. They have not yet come to terms with Jesus' impending death. They are still hoping that maybe he's going to pull a rabbit out of a hat and show himself to be the kind of Messiah that they hope he will become. The kind that they saw on that mountaintop in radiant glory, not the kind who won't lift a finger to save himself while he hangs on a cross, let alone save anyone else. The guests at the party who comment on the woman's gift to Jesus don't want to admit what is going on either. They are a bit indignant, in fact, at this gift that she expends, which is lavish and costly. It apparently was close to a year's wages, and it was used up on Jesus. Now, we might actually expect the opposite response from Jesus, that he would condemn the woman for lavishing this gift upon her instead of upon the poor, given that in other cases he has told a rich man to sell all he has and to give it to the poor. But instead, Jesus defends this woman. Perhaps he sees into the critical hearts of the guests. They give the excuse that the money she had spent on this gift should have been spent on the poor. And maybe they are truly concerned about the poor, and maybe they're not. Criticizing how someone else uses their resources is a good way to deflect from examining your own generosity, or lack thereof. One writer roughly paraphrases Jesus' response to them like this: "You are not lacking in opportunities to give to the poor, so go ahead and get to work." And while Jesus' words about the poor are cryptic and a source of some debate, Jesus' praise of this woman is not. And Jesus links her gift to him as a gift that anticipates his death and burial. Mary Magdalene was the first person to announce the good news of Jesus' resurrection, but this woman, who remains unnamed, is the first to announce the reality of Jesus' impending death. She is the first witness of the cross. And instead of running away from it like the disciples did, Or instead of turning on Jesus and rooting for a Messiah more in line with what she expected or wanted, like the Palm Sunday crowds did, or instead of pretending that this is business as usual and she should just get on with religious observances like giving alms to the poor instead of making all this fuss over Jesus, like the guests at the gathering did, this woman gives Jesus her lavish and costly gift. She understands that this is not business as normal. She understands that life is going to be different for Jesus from here on out. She understands that Jesus is prepared to be arrested and will likely be given the death penalty. Death is all around Jesus at this point in the story, and this woman is the first person who truly understands that and blesses him on his way, even if it's not the way she would have chosen. Interestingly, the body of Jesus never does get anointed after he dies. Mary Magdalene and the other women were on their way to do that very service to Jesus' body on that most memorable first day of the week, the day known as Easter Sunday, when they discovered that it was not actually necessary to anoint his dead body because there was no body left in the tomb to anoint. So this unnamed woman's gift serves as that honor given to the bodies of the people they loved, only she gives her gift beforehand. In C.S. Lewis's Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, when the hero of the story, Aslan, knows that he is walking into the hands of the evil creatures and the White Witch to be killed, Aslan discovers two girls, Susan and Lucy, who have been following him. And he asks them, "Oh, children, children, why are you following me?" "We couldn't sleep," said Lucy. And then she felt sure that she need say no more, and that Aslan knew all that they were thinking. "Please, may we come with you wherever you're going?" asked Susan. "Well," said Aslan, and seemed to be thinking. And then he said, "I should be glad of some company tonight." "Yes, you may come, if you promise to stop when I tell you, and after that leave me to go on alone." This particular scene in the Chronicles of Narnia sheds some light, at least for me, on the why Jesus holds this woman's gift in such high esteem. All around, Jesus is surrounded by disciples who think that Jesus should not have to suffer, and who still have stars in their eyes, wondering when they are going to get their big payoff for following Jesus and ushering in his kingdom. Even though Jesus takes 3 of his disciples to the Garden of Gethsemane to keep watch with him, they're too tired and they can't do what he asked them. The disciples don't appear to understand what's going on, and when it's too hard for them, they run away. Jesus is adored by the crowds, but when the result they want doesn't materialize, they turn on him. And the dinner guests at this party ignore or else fail to see the signs of death all around Jesus and think this is all business as normal. But Jesus already knows what this mission is going to cost. And he knows the crowds and the dinner guests and even his closest companions don't understand, except for this one nameless woman. She understands what it's going to take for Jesus to be the Messiah, and she gives him a gift appropriate for this road that he is walking. Her gift signifies her willingness to walk with him. And I think he is glad of the company, because he doesn't get it in very many other places. This woman gives a remarkable, lavish, costly, abundant gift to Jesus, and it sends him on his way during Holy Week, knowing that he is not totally alone in the road that he is set to walk. Even if the disciples don't get it, even if the crowds will turn against him, even though people object and think this gift is too indecorous or too expensive, this woman throws her lot in with Jesus. She knows what it's going to take for him to be the Messiah, and she blesses it. Now, I don't know, of course, but perhaps while Jesus walked the road to the cross, maybe some of the gift that this woman lavished on him, the scent perhaps or the feel of the oil, reminded him of this moment and gave Jesus strength and hope in the dark days that he was going into. And maybe that's why he said, "Truly, I tell you, whenever the gospel is preached throughout the world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her." Now, I honestly don't know how much that statement is true. It's been a very long time since I heard the story of this particular woman, which is why I thought it was important to share this Holy Week. But we who see and hear can also tell this woman's story and make Jesus' words here come true. And we who know where this solemn Holy Week is going can commit to walk with Jesus, even as he walks the way of the cross.